Awesome.
What is up, my social media people? Guys, we are live, and you already know that because we're live. And I am so excited, but I'm also really nervous because I have known Ryan. It's really weird. We've never physically met, but we've been social media friends for years now. So I feel like I know you, which is kind of the beauty of social media. But I'm nervous, guys, because a lot of the things that we're going to get into today, I personally suck at. And so it's always fun when you bring a guest on and you already know going in that, man, I'm going to feel super convicted with pretty much every word that comes out of both of your mouths. And so, man, I'm excited, kind of. No, I am fully excited. But guys, let me just set the stage and then I'm going to shut up and not even talk for the rest of the time. Ryan and Caroline have an unbelievable story. Ryan has not only survived non-Hodgkin's lymphoma once, but he's an overachiever, right? He's that guy that you hate because he's not settled with one. He's beat it twice. And his story is unlike you've probably ever heard before. And so I wanted to just bring you on. And then obviously, Caroline, you've had a front row seat to this entire thing, and you've been as impacted by it emotionally, probably even some physically, just the pain that you feel as the spouse watching your significant other go through this stuff. And so let's just open this up, man. Ryan, Caroline, let's jump into the story of, man, what was going on in your life before all of this took place. Who are you as a person? And then let's get to the transformation part of the impact that this has had on the two of you, your children, really everything.
Yeah. Hey, thanks a lot for having us on, Kyle. I feel the same way. I know you and I have interacted quite a bit. I think one of us maybe maybe we've both mailed each other a book at one time or another.
Yeah.
And it is a neat benefit to social media and the world we live in today. So, yeah, I mean, I'm 40 years of age now, and it was about 4.5 years ago at age 35 in the fall of 2015 that I found out I was diagnosed with stage 4 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma cancer. And really was pretty much told from an oncology standpoint, they didn't feel like there was any cure and that there was really any chance of me living long term. There was some things they felt like they maybe could do to manage it in the short term. But, my oncologist told me from the very beginning, you're going to die from the cancer. And at that time, our 3 children were all under the age of 10. Now they're 14, 10, and 8. Okay. Our oldest is a boy. His name's Addison. And then our daughter, Atlanta, is 10. And then our other son is Arthur. And Caroline and I, we just celebrated 20 years of marriage this year.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
You've put up with him for a long time.
Yes, I have.
Yes, for sure. So yeah, like the thing that I wanted to say real quick before I kind of get into the story is like prior to that, I mean, we've been entrepreneurs our whole life. We're from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Caroline's originally from Puerto Rico, but she moved to Tulsa area when she was, a young girl, like 10, 11 years old. And basically, at least from my perspective, Caroline was a little bit further down the road, but I was now looking back, I realized I was very disconnected from the idea that it was my responsibility to learn about my own health and my own well-being. I didn't really have much awareness that it was my job to learn about the immune system and learn about how emotional health can affect your physical health. And I didn't really know anything about food or the impacts of what you put in your body. I hadn't done any research on vaccines. I hadn't really even thought about why I would even need to do that. And part of it is because up until my cancer diagnosis, I had never really had a health problem ever my whole life. And I'm a thin, skinnier type person by nature. And I say this kind of jokingly, but I really mean it. I wonder if people who actually put on weight easily, I wonder if they could actually have a paradigm shift. What if they're actually the lucky ones because they have a more immediate signal that something is off base with the way they're taking care of their health.
Yeah.
Versus me, what if the fact that I wasn't showing it by putting on a lot of weight is part of the reason why I didn't really recognize all the signs until I'm facing a death sentence?
Wow. Yeah, that's a great point.
So I think my message is to say, when we share today, we're sharing from a place of, hey, I was very disconnected from my health. I was literally the guy that had been brainwashed by the commercials. Every pharmaceutical commercial ends with, talk to your doctor, see your doctor, call your doctor, right? And I think on the deeper level, Kyle, what it really emphasized was a belief system that I was probably handed as a kid, which was, I thought they were just the authority on my health, and I didn't realize that they're also human, that they also don't know everything, and that it's not their responsibility to take care of my health. That's mine.
Right.
And so here we are, diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and I'm being told, I could potentially die within a few months. Wow. I'm being told that, if the chemotherapy worked well and I responded, first of all, it was so powerful. They told me it actually could kill me in 2 weeks before the cancer even. And if it did work, I'd be doing it on and off every 6 to 18 months. And if they could extend my life by 10 years, they thought that was that was a home run.
Wow.
And that was just not acceptable to me. I just thought, well, that would only put me at 45. My 2 young kids would still be in high school. Mm-hmm. I wanted something more than that. And so the fact that they told me there was no cure made me question, well, what else is there out there in the world that I could learn, that I could figure out? What do other people know about disease and all of that? And so we took a road less traveled, and maybe a road that would be very scary for a lot of people. But the thing is that was the first step in me becoming a more empowered human being, was me saying, well, you don't have the answers. You only have an answer that may or may not work. Why would it be such a risk for me to take my health into my own hands on some level, become my own health advocate, go see what else is out there that I might learn and discover? Because, basically at this point, you're telling me I'm going to die anyway. On some level, as scary as it sounds when your life hangs in the balance, it's like, what did I really have to lose?
Sure.
And so
did you go the chemo route the first time, or you said, no, I'm going to go my own way?
Yeah, no, I didn't do chemo the first time.
Wow. Okay.
And it was kind of a, hey, thanks, but no thanks. The thought of being the next customer on the conveyor belt of conventional medicine, because that's all I knew to do, that just didn't resonate with me.
Yeah.
And I just thought, if I'm going to die, I'd rather die going out, being true to myself, and going to the end of the earth, trying to see what I don't know.
Yeah.
So we just jumped in, and Caroline was really the lead researcher. And within a matter of days, we were making radical changes. I was radically changing my diet very quickly. I was taking supplements. We found out about things like hyperbaric oxygen chamber treatment. We learned about coffee enemas. Within a month, I was at a clinic in Mexico, and I'd raised $35,000 to be able to go down there for 4 weeks. And there were all these alternative and natural and holistic, ways that people had found had some efficacy and had worked. Wow. There was just as much risk there, but it didn't come with all the side effects. A more natural alternative route, it's not that guarantees that you're going to overcome your illness. It's just, at least you don't get killed in the process of trying to overcome it by the treatments themselves.
Right.
Which so often, if you really get deep into the cancer world, I can't tell you how many people they put down, they want to claim that if you live 5 years beyond your diagnosis, they will put that down as they cured you. Even if you're dead, even if you die at 5 years and 2 weeks, The question, though, we all need to be asking is what kind of quality of life were those last 5 years?
Right.
Were you sick and throwing up the whole time? Did you lose 50 pounds that you didn't have? Did all your hair go away? Were you stuck in home? Were you missing all your kids' events? Like they manipulated, in my opinion, the viewpoint. And I'm not even anti-conventional medicine. I did do some conventional medicine. And actually the second time I did do some chemo. So don't hear me as anti.
Sure.
I'm saying
They
have one little limited perspective in the whole view
right.
of what it means to live in health and live in well-being.
Well, and there's a reason why, right? Doctors' offices are called practices because they're practicing medicine, right? I mean, isn't that why it's called that?
I hadn't really thought of it that way, but I love how you put it. I think that's spot on. And that's not to be disrespectful. That's just to go, they don't know it all. They can't.
Right.
Nobody does.
No one does. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what do you think, because you said you had it the first time, it went, I guess you went into remission, and then 7 months later it came back. What was the biggest thing you learned the first go around that is still impacting your life today?
Well, it took me about 2 years to really radically, completely change the way I eat. So even though I was making very drastic changes, I did not realize how addicted to food I was.
Wow.
So even during my cancer journey, I had moments where I was literally sneaking pizza and burgers and fries into my body without Caroline knowing, because I knew she would be devastated. But I was so overwhelmed with my addiction that I just could not, I couldn't hardly get over it without having total withdrawals, breakdowns. It was really no different than like an alcoholic or someone trying to break a smoking habit. It was profound, actually, in a weird way. So today, I don't subscribe to an idea, Kyle, that there's one perfect way to eat.
Sure.
I think that eating mindfully is a healthy approach, and getting in tune with your body, trial and error. I mean, even recently I took a food sensitivity test just to see if there was anything that I was currently eating on a regular basis that might not be processing properly or sitting well or going through my microbiome and my digestive system in the way it was supposed to. So we joke, and people all the time will say, well, are you guys vegans? And we're like, no, we're Ryan and Caroline. And they're like, well, are you paleo? And we're like, no, we're just Ryan and Caroline. And they're like, no, like what way do you, how do you eat, Ryan? And we're like, well, we're not real big into labels, but I guess if you want to give us one, we're flexitarians.
Flexitarians. I love it.
And yes, on a high percentage of the time, we prefer to eat plant-based. We have found for us personally, just us, not saying this is what works for everybody, we do better when we eat more fruits and vegetables, more nuts and seeds, more real live food that isn't setting in a pantry that can last for 2 years, that's been all modified and processed. That's what works best for us. We don't really eat much outside of maybe eggs and salmon. We don't really have anything that's not vegan in our home. That's just kind of how we operate. But if I'm over at my sister-in-law's house and she's made fresh banana bread, I don't care what the ingredients are, baby. That stuff is delicious. And I'm going to eat 2 or 3 pieces. I'm not going to have any guilt or shame around it. And I'm going to eat it with ease and with gratitude. And I'm just going to soak it up like, hey, this was made with love. Because I know even if that's not the best thing for my body to consume, that is so occasional that my regular normal habits and lifestyle afford me the ability sometimes to just eat for pleasure.
Yeah.
So we don't believe in cheat days. We don't talk about eating unhealthy. We just talk about being mindful. And we want to be at ease with everything we're doing, because if cancer or diabetes or anything that physically is labeled as an illness, if that represents dis-ease on the spectrum, then we want to be over on the other end of the spectrum, which is how do I live at ease with myself, with the food that I eat, with other people, with the world that I live in. How do I live a life of ease? Because from our perspective, that cultivates wellness.
Yeah.
So I think to answer your question is, a lifestyle of fruits and vegetables and plant-based and smoothies and things like that, it's just not difficult for me anymore.
Sure.
But it was for a long time.
So Caroline, did you have to take the reins? Like, because obviously it sounds like with the food addiction that Ryan had, like, so were you becoming the meal prepper and really like forcing him to be better at first? Or was it, something different?
Well, I think what happened was when we got the call, our family physician was also a friend. And so he called us on a Saturday in September of 2015. And he was like, Ryan, I need to talk to you and Caroline. So we knew something serious was happening.
Okay.
And he literally told Ryan, I'm pretty sure you have cancer. I'm pretty sure it's lymphoma, and I'm pretty sure it's advanced. And the reason he said pretty sure is because he was basing it off MRIs. He didn't have a PET scan or testing done yet. And when Ryan got off that conversation, he looked at me and he literally asked me, what do I do next? And the reason he did that was because I thankfully had already been in a journey of learning to juice. I was already making smoothies. I was already realizing that there was more to diet than what was really the general communication and advertising. I was learning all about that. So he knew that. So he turned to me and immediately I was like, well, you're going to have to start drinking raw juices, which he'd never done before in his life. And so immediately in that sense, Ryan was very coachable, and I did take the reins. I'd be like, try this juice, take these pills. Let's try this thing, this powder, this concoction, whatever it was. He was very willing to try things for sure.
And I think that's huge. I mean, I just know for me, right, as a struggling large human my whole life, it's easier when my wife says, hey, let's do it together, right? She doesn't need to lose weight, right? She always wants to lose 5 pounds or something. But when I'm like, okay, I'm going to try to do paleo, but she does what, her and the kids do their own thing, I never last.
Yeah.
But I feel guilty because I don't want to blame her, right? Because again, Ryan, like you're saying, like I got to take control of myself, but it's so hard when they're doing their thing. And then I'm trying to be, really intense and good. And so like, is that what y'all have seen? Is y'all coach people more? Like if the two are not connected and kind of in it together, is it a lot harder for them to be successful?
Well, I think there's two things. One of the things that we both, Ryan and I, have learned is that we had to take responsibility for ourselves. And it's so easy at times it really is, it's in our humanness to be like, well, it sure would be easier. They would eat like me. Or sure it would be easier to make this happen. So I think one is taking our own responsibility, but then second, for sure, when you have a family that's doing things together, there's the power of multiple. There is a true power in having someone by your side that's willing to go in that similar route. So in essence, yes, I had pretty much the similar diet as Ryan. I was drinking the juices he was drinking. I wasn't maybe taking all the supplements because I didn't need them all, but I was pretty much right in line with him for sure.
Yeah, and I would say, Kyle, that in the beginning of wanting to make big changes, yes, the more that the spouses together or the partners of the family, the more they're willing to try to pretty much do the same thing, even if it's just more for the benefit of one, then that'll help you get through the tougher time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, I don't really think, I'm not really noticing whether Caroline's eating different things than me or not. I mean, I have enough awareness to know that she is. Some of it's based on what she likes to eat versus what I like to eat. But I'm just saying now I'm such in a rhythm and she's such in a rhythm. Honestly, she's not going to tempt me with something that I just don't want to put in my body and vice versa. And we have worked so hard on the interior piece of the judgment and the thinking that I'm right, which means everybody else has to be wrong.
Yeah.
We worked so hard on that we're just comfortable that nobody knows better than Caroline about what she should be eating. And no one knows better than Ryan, me, about what I should be eating. And that's going to still look a little different individually.
So let's, if we can, let's go down that road, the internal road. How, I mean, this whole video spun up because I put a post up about my opinion of the reopening of Texas, right? And you read the post and you saw the comments, right? Like it was a freaking wildfire. And my wife was so mad at me for opening the floodgates of that. And so I hate that we live in a world that if I have an opinion that's different than you, we love to paint the picture of why are you against me? Right? When the reality is, like, shouldn't we be able to go, man, I don't see it that way, but I still love you as a human.
Absolutely.
And I still, we could still be homies.
Yes.
But that's just not how it is. So internally, as you guys were navigating through this, like, how did you walk through those waters? Because I know a part of your coaching that you guys do is the mental aspect, right? The spiritual stuff, like all of the stuff that we may even not even know how to categorize and touch. What does all that look like?
Go ahead, babe.
So you're exactly right. I think what's happened with our society is that we have this either you're for me or you're against me.
Yeah.
That's either right or wrong. That's either black or white.
Yeah.
That is either light or dark. Like there's so much of that contrast that we live in that we forget that there's this gray and a human tendency that not everyone does the same thing. So when we live from that, it is because what that's really showing is our inner insecurities. And we're looking for people to affirm us.
Yeah.
So if they're not affirming the way we believe, then it causes this internal turmoil, which then means naturally people then want to attack, want to tell you why you're wrong and I'm right.
Yeah.
And so I agree with you. Like it should be okay. It's how Earth has been since probably day one, is that there should be contrast in everything. And the more we can be sure in ourselves, the more then we are open to everyone else's opinions. We can stand with what we stand with, but how then we decide to, like, as in your post, people get pretty volatile in there and start just, I mean, it is, it's like, you're against me, you're wrong. I mean, the name calling, it's just, that's very unfortunate. So Ryan, I'll let you.
There's a quote, Kyle, that I live by a lot of quotes. I'm a kind of a quote junkie, but
me too.
But the quote is, you can either be right or you can be free, but you can't be both. And I want to live free.
Come on.
I want to be free. And
that's good.
I'm not perfect at it. And I have moments where I forget to operate in the awareness. But when I saw your post, I'm just like any other human. That first egoic thought is, God, what a moron. I mean,
thank you.
I mean, yeah. I mean, but thankfully, through a lot of work, not every time, but more times than not, I am the observer of my thoughts. So I just observed myself call Kyle a moron. And I'm like, yeah, no, not living from that. That's egoic consciousness.
Right.
So then I could step into, and I remember literally taking a moment and thinking, if I was in his shoes and I thought like him, what would be driving me to think the way he's thinking?
Yeah.
And then I asked myself, and why do I see it so drastically different?
Yeah.
And I don't remember exactly what I commented, but my first thought was maybe he's just not as informed about this certain subject.
Yeah, sure.
Topic, which, by the way, I guarantee you, when it comes to training real estate people, I'm not as informed as you are. I'm not as trained. Sure. So it's not like, oh, I'm better than him, or, oh, you're better than me. It's that none of us are fully informed to the level that we need to be and ought to be on all subject matters, especially the top ones, the priorities, the health and the relationships and the spirituality and the emotional stuff. Like, nobody's got all of that nailed. They just don't. Like, And so I did my best to word it in a way I was hoping that I could invite you into, hey, have you thought about this? Or, hey, have you considered that? And here we are, a few days
here we are,
having an incredible conversation. And I really feel proud of that. Like, that is something that brings me a lot of satisfaction, that I have moved to a place in my life where I could see a post, I could vehemently disagree with it.
Yeah.
And yet I could enter into a conversation that would lead to a bigger conversation 3 days later.
100%.
Not because I think I'm right and you're wrong, but because I think there was more to this discussion than just my point of view or just your point of view.
Well, and I think, and Ryan, you may have done this consciously or unconsciously, but I think too, because of we have a relationship, right? I think you're able to do this. I try to do this. I try to assume that the person posting isn't trying to be hurtful.
Right.
Yeah. I think we love to get our feelings hurt, and we love to act like Caroline meant to make me feel bad. And it's like, no, right? And maybe you did, right? But I think I try to live my life just assuming no one is out to get me.
Right.
No one is out to make me look like an idiot.
100%.
Right. And when we can live like in that freedom, right? I don't need to be right. I'd rather be free, like you said a minute ago. It allows us to see things from fresh perspectives constantly.
Yes.
Which I really love, because I really think that we're going to look back on this video as the moment where, I made some substantial life changes that if you would have been pissed and gone guns blazing into my post.
And I've done that. I'm guilty of it.
Me too. We wouldn't even be having this conversation.
Yeah.
Right. So it's super cool. And I love that about you. And obviously you and I are fragments of how great our wives are. So I already know I love that about Caroline, even though I don't know her as well as I know you. But
yeah, well, I told you before we jumped on here.
Yeah.
Because I know we won't be able to get into all the details on this entire call, but
we'll do another one.
Yeah. Like I hope people got an idea that like I ate a standard American diet. I was disconnected from my own health. I just thought doctors were the complete authority. I didn't know it was really my responsibility. Caroline had been nudging me and trying to get me to think more about that. And I just really wasn't open to it at all. Then I get this huge wake-up call. And thankfully, in my particular example, I was able to discover enough, change enough, shift enough, transform enough that I got a second chance, that I get to still enjoy this human experience before my runway ran out. But it was very close. I mean, I almost died 3 times. And some people, their runway does run out before they have the revelations of who they needed to become in order to have a better human experience. And I'm not better than those people. And I don't always know how to do this, but my real heart is not to say, hey, look at me, look at us. We've got all the answers. We've got it figured out. We're so amazing. No, my real thing is to say, man, we've lived through something. We're reaching our hand out as an invitation to say, maybe you aren't as connected to your health as you ought to be. Yeah. Maybe it hadn't dawned on you the kind of personal responsibility you need to take, or maybe you haven't figured out what's going on because it has to do with your childhood trauma or what was embodied to you by your parents, and you haven't made that connection. And we're just simply saying we're a little further down the path. This is later for us. Yeah. You're in an earlier stage, and we aren't saying we've got all of it figured out, but we'd love to be a guide to just take you into a new realm of possibility. Not because you're going to be looking to us as the authority, but hopefully to help you realize you are your own authority.
Right.
And that's how you go from being a disempowered human being to an empowered human being. And that does not guarantee you perfect circumstances.
Right.
It just gives you greater odds at enjoying a life of ease instead of being in dis-ease, which is really what illness is.
So let me ask you this. So you get diagnosed, you radically change your lifestyle, your diet, right? All of that stuff. You beat cancer, right? So I'm assuming there's just this a relief, right, that sets in both of you. And then we know now that 7 months later, it came back. In those 7 months, did you let off the gas in some of those areas, like where you think that played a role in it coming back? Or was it just, man, it was unfortunate it came back, but I was still committed to all the changes that you'd made previously?
I'm going to answer this one first, Caroline, and then you can go. maybe I did let off the gas. I don't know. I remember thinking at one point, like, you know, for a year or so, like my health was a full-time job. It was all I did all day, every day, treatments, therapies, you know, that was not a sustainable lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking like, I can't do these things forever. So I guess you could say, yeah, maybe I did. I don't know for sure, but here's what I do know is when the diagnosis came again, the recurrence showed up. It was such a blow to my ego. And I call the ego the conditioned mind, which is, you know, I think we have different parts of our brain.
Yeah.
The ego for me represents all my conditioning, my programming, the collection of opinions, beliefs, and ideologies that I've gathered up over my lifetime from other humans. So when my ego pops up, that's me being a people pleaser. That's me trying to appease all these conditions and programs that other people have projected onto me as their truth. And I'm trying to live up to their truth when really I'm supposed to be living up to my truth.
Okay.
So when the ego found out I got a reoccurrence, oh man, dude, it was like, it actually felt worse than the original diagnosis, because I'm like, no, this can't be happening to me. I did stuff nobody else is willing to do. I mean, I did all the hard stuff. I mean, I was pissed. I'm like, what the hell? So it took me a few days. And then thankfully, through some, you know, I was on a path of transformation and growth. I was able to get out of my ego. And I just remember thinking, okay, relax for a second, Ryan. And I just decided that I needed to talk to the cancer again. And I just internally said, okay, cancer, what am I missing? What's the message this time? What am I not understanding that's caused you to show up again? And I really feel like, even though I did do some chemo the second time, which is kind of interesting, because the second time was when I really made the connection that this had more to do with my state of consciousness, the belief system I lived under, the way I handled my own thoughts, that real, true, long-term permanent healing was an inside job, not an outside job.
Okay.
This wasn't no longer about whether I found a different diet or went to another hospital or found the perfect treatment. This was about, could I fully love and accept me so that I could be at total and complete ease on a physiological state.
Okay.
And I did the deepest, most incredible, down the rabbit hole, deconstruct, question everything I'd ever been told about any subject on the planet. And 6 months later, I was cancer-free, and I've been cancer-free now for 2.5 years since.
Wow.
And I literally took the journey from dis-ease to ease. And to give you one quick example, and then I'll let Caroline answer as well. One of my revelations is that one of the reasons I believe the cancer showed up again is because I was addicted to the attention that my illness brought me.
Wow.
And I had been very public with my journey, and I got lots of love, and I actually got lots of sympathy. And I found out that sympathy is the vibration and frequency of sickness. And I realized that once I got well, the attention on social media dropped off like you fell off a cliff. And I did some amazing work, and I realized I could no longer be addicted to other people giving me attention. I had to learn to be my own best friend.
Wow.
And just appreciate whatever was happening as the experience that I was experiencing, not labeling it as I'm getting attention and that's good, I'm not getting attention and that's bad.
Yeah.
And that is brutal, brutal honesty that it took, I believe, on my part to completely heal and transform what was really sick, which was way more than my body. It was my heart and my soul. Man, and I was out of alignment.
That's so deep, right? I mean, none of this is easy. So, I mean, how, like, if you guys are coaching someone, right? I mean, what's the first step in them having that self-discovery that you've experienced over the last, 2.5, 3 years?
I can start with that. So, as Ryan was saying, it was the discovery that your physical is in line with your emotional. They're not separate. They're intertwined within our own selves.
Yeah.
So there's a couple things that happens is realizing that we do have power, and we have the physical power, and we have the mental power. So it's realizing when the two are combined, and that means that I can do something about it. When we're giving our power away, thinking, oh, that's just my family. We've all of us have had this disease, or we've all had diabetes. Like, it's just the way we are. We're giving our power away. But when we realize that it all comes from within, then we're taking our power back. And if we have power, that means we can actually do something about it.
Right.
So that is step one, is realizing that we have power. We have responsibility. We actually have a say-so within ourselves. So I think that's the very first thing that was the difference between Ryan's first cancer journey and his second cancer journey. You asked what happened in the 7 months. I know what happened. And that was, he was physically doing a lot of things right. But in between those 7 months, we had some major conflict in relationships. And that was there was a lot of pain in that. There was separation. There were relationships that basically just weren't there for a period of time until we were able to heal those relationships and get better. Yeah. So all of that points to an emotional unease that Ryan was in. And so realizing then that the two were attached, when he faced cancer the second time, he realized that he could continue to do all the right things, but if his emotional didn't start lining up, then the cancer would always keep returning. And that's the way our, Ryan's story goes. So when someone comes to us, that's step one.
Yeah. Is
responsibility and realizing the two are connected.
And doesn't that suck? Like, nobody wants to take responsibility for anything. Right. Like, life is so much easier when I can go, it's not my fault. My mom, my parents raised me this way. Yes. Right? It's just so much easier to put it off on somebody else.
And you know what? Sometimes, Kyle, it isn't our fault. But then once we are aware of what is sourcing our behavior, it is now our responsibility to do something about whatever had happened to us that might have not been our fault. I mean, I truly believe I am the source of my cancer and disease. I do not think that cancer attacked me from the outside. I do not think diabetes attacks people from the outside. Yeah. But I don't necessarily think it's my fault. I mean, I didn't do it on purpose.
Sure.
But once I became aware that I was the source of it, you have really a couple of ways of looking at that. You could be very defeated and be like, shoot, man.
Yeah.
Or you could go, but wait a second. If I'm the source of my dis-ease, doesn't that mean I could learn how to be the source of my well-being?
Mm-hmm.
Because if I'm a victim to my disease, then I'm at the mercy, I guess, of do I need luck in order to have well-being? Do I just do I just hope that I'm one of those small percentage of people that somehow make it after a prognosis or a diagnosis? I mean, I don't know about you. As hard as it is to take responsibility, I'd still rather know that I can do something about my situation.
Absolutely. So have you guys, I've been reading, have y'all read Atomic Habits by James Clear?
No. I've heard of it. I can't say that I've read it.
So it's so interesting. I literally created a graphic from the book like 5 minutes before we jumped on. And the book focuses a lot on that we think our success is about goal setting. But he talks about how the reality is that successful people and unsuccessful people set the same goals. So it's obviously not in the goal setting that makes us successful. It's in the systems we implement inside of the goal setting. And so the reason I brought that up is what I want to know from you guys is what are just a couple, so we can kind of get an idea of daily lifestyle. What are a couple of the things that are a part of your routine that is just a non-negotiable for you, whether it is a food item or it's journaling or prayer, meditation, like what does some of that look like that really is the system in which you are able to flourish?
The number one thing for me is that I do not get lazy in my observation of my thoughts. So for an example, I can think about times where I've made some financial investments that I thought were going to turn out really, really well.
Yeah.
And many of those have turned out disastrous. And at some point down the road from when that happened, something will cause my mind to remember it.
Yeah.
And being lazy would be to set and let my mind take me all the way back through what I should have done and could have done. And if Caroline hadn't said that, and if that guy would have just disclosed this. And that is being lazy with our thinking, because it's only in my ability to notice that that is about to happen that I can then observe that I'm not giving attention to that thought anymore. And sometimes it's an internal dialogue like, Ryan, just don't go there. Just don't go there.
Yeah.
You've already let that go. It happened. It's part of the experience. There is no amount of rehashing. You already learned whatever you thought was a valuable lesson from it. You've moved on. And the only thing left for that thought to do would be to reinforce a belief system of you're not good enough, or lack consciousness, or why bad things always happen to you, or whatever other BS that we have stuck in our, limiting belief system. And so I would say that's the number one thing I feel like it is my life passion to master my ability to be in control of my own mind. I refuse to be a slave to my thoughts ever again. No chance, no how. Sure. I'm not doing it.
And Caroline, I want to know what your answer would be for that. But I think this is so true, right? I deal with people in social media, and I can fall victim to doing a video that in my mind, I think this video is going to crush it. It's incredible. People are going to be blown away. And then 80 views later, I'm like, son of a bee. What? Yeah. Like, why are my friends idiots? Why does no one understand how incredible this is? And then now, 8 hours later, I'm like, I suck at the whole world, and I don't even know why people pay me anything. Like, my wife's probably going to serve me divorce papers tomorrow because I'm just the worst. And it's crazy how quickly I can lose complete control of my mental thoughts. And I'm ready to call it quits and go work for somebody else tomorrow. So, man, that's powerful stuff. That's hard.
Yeah.
So I'll speak into this. So I'll give you some simple things that I have developed habits in.
Okay.
One of them, so I'll say a couple of them, but one is I realized the power of I am.
Okay.
I didn't used to do this, but it's just something I started really early last year. Is I realized I'm so quick to say, I'm not good enough. I can't do this. I'm not whatever.
Yeah.
And what I realized is that I can take that same power and flip it. So every single day, and because I actually write them in my calendar journal, is I literally write at least 3 I am statements. Some of them can be as simple of I am love, I am worthy, I am joy. And then sometimes can be like, if I realize that day I need to be a certain way to get certain stuff done, whether it's business or with family, then my I ams relate to that. So like when I'm coaching, I tell myself, I am valuable. I have value to bring.
Yeah. When
I'm being with family, I am compassionate. I am patient, because sometimes I need to be patient with family.
Yeah. Yeah.
So those are very powerful things that set my day with I ams. On a food and habit standpoint, is we're huge believers of drinking lots of water. Our body, everybody knows, is made of 70% plus water. So literally water, there's there's huge amounts of benefits to it. So that's something simple that it's like the simple things is what works, is drinking water. Ryan and I, it's about eating some fruits. Like people think like eating fruits and veggies is complicated, but it's not complicated to eat a banana. It's not complicated to have apples. It's not complicated to eat grapes. Like what we figured out that helps us thrive is the easy stuff. So why not focus on the easy stuff?
Yeah.
It's easy to buy produce at the store.
Yeah.
Even in this pandemic situation, there was always produce at the store. Like they ran out of all kinds of stuff, but we could always get bananas. We could always get the easy stuff.
But I couldn't get Twinkies. They were gone. Right?
Or canned beans. But so go with the easy. Figure out what's easy for you, because once we realize certain things are easy, then we find other things that become easier.
Right.
And so that's my biggest tip for people is people ask me all the time, well, what should I do? What can I change? And I'm like, well, what would be easy to change? Because if you have the fruit at home and you're buying it, you don't like it to go back to throw it away. You're going to end up eating it. So you develop new habits. So just things like that. That's my biggest that I tell moms all the time. Figure out what's easy for the kids, because kids, if the fruit is on the counter and it's available and easy, they'll eat the fruit.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yes, they will. If you cut up the pineapple, if you cut up the mango, if you tell them, hey, I've got, 4 bowls of strawberries ready, they'll devour them. They won't even question it at all. But if you told them they had to go make this, pull the stem out on the strawberry, or they had to cut it up, and they'll just grab crackers or some snack out of the thing that's a lot easier. And what I wanted to say real quick is look, and I'm being a little bit funny here, but it's true. Look, when you're drinking the kind of water that you need to be drinking all day, I'm in the bathroom all the time, dude. I mean, I have to pee like every 30 or 45 minutes. I'm not even kidding. There's nothing wrong with me. It's just that I have this water bottle with me, and I'm attempting to down 4 to 5 of these bottles a day. And I just keep it around me. And it doesn't serve me well to try to just guzzle it. I need to just be sipping on it all the time. And I'm just telling you, man, you're going to have to get to a point where you're okay with going to the bathroom a lot. Like I just accept it. The great wisdom teachers of ancient times, many of them said attachment equals suffering. And so what I mean by that is that if I'm attached to, well, I don't want to have to pee all the time, Ryan. Well, then you're going to suffer. Because the way it works is if you're hydrated properly, you pee all the time. You can either resist that. Sorry, go ahead, Caroline. That's not 100% accurate, but I was making my point. Maybe not everybody's going to always pee. You're going to pee more. Are you not going to pee more if you're hydrated?
Yes, but not necessarily every 30 minutes. So Ryan likes to be.
But I think you drove home the point of if you're attached to anything, you're going to have a hard time evolving and changing and picking up anything new.
Right. And Jim Rohn basically said, look, you're a guest here. Your job is to learn how the universe works, the one that we're on, the planet that we're here. Yeah. Your job is, if you want to live the best life possible, you've got to figure out what is, and you have to embrace it and accept it. And that's how you thrive. And he said, and if you don't, well, I mean, I guess you could create your own universe. I mean, that's an option, but otherwise we're guests here. And then, we're big on making smoothies because you can add in all these, flaxseed and chia seeds and powders and all that stuff that is packed with a lot of nutrients that you'd have to eat a lot of vegetables.
So what's your go-to? What's your go-to smoothie?
Like a bunch of organic fruit, organic apple juice with half organic apple juice, half water, and then 4 or 5 powders, green powders, chia seeds, flax seeds, magnesium, vitamin C. Like we mix those things up. There's like 10 or 12 kind of superfoods. Yeah. And we ask our kids to drink a smoothie at least every other day. That's kind of part of their lifestyle of chores and their list. And we tell them it's not because mom and dad said so. This is part of you learning to think about what you're putting in your body. Yeah. This is part of you making choices and noticing when you don't eat a certain way and how that affects your bowel movements or affects how your stomach feels or the energy levels that you have. We don't get on them necessarily. It's not about right or wrong. It's about, well, are you noticing what you've been eating and how that's making you feel? And are you seeing the difference? And are you okay? Do you want to continue to have to deal with that kind of pain? Or do you want to do something about it? Like we're trying to educate them not about how to eat, but why eating certain ways matters when you're in tune with how it affects your body.
So
it's more about self-love and self-care than it is I'm on the right diet and all you other idiots who eat different than me, you're wrong. Do that. That's stupid. That don't get us anywhere.
We're definitely not believers that there's one diet and one size fits all.
Sure.
You know, that's not what we stand for.
So it's crazy. We're literally at 50 minutes right now, which is unbelievable that we've already talked for that long, because I feel like we just started.
I know.
But, so you guys tell me, we've been scrolling, your website across the bottom the entire time. And I know you also, you push a lot of information out through your podcast. So talk to us a couple minutes as we kind of wind this thing down about your podcast, the content that you guys, I'm assuming you're both on there.
Yes.
What the content looks like there. And that way people that watch this can get more of you.
Go ahead, babe.
I thought you were going to answer this one. So the podcast is Chasing Certainty. And we call this season 2 because Ryan had an initial podcast called The Shift, which was primarily him. And he did interview people, including me. On the second season, I'm on there most of the time. It's either me or he's interviewing.
Dang right, as you should be. Shame on you, Ryan, for making season 1 about you.
Though, I had to decide and step into that. That was doesn't come natural for me. So I definitely have stepped into a bigger role in the podcast and in coaching and different things. But Chasing Certainty is about realizing that really in life, we're taught as kids that if you do X, Y, Z, you're going to get this.
Yeah.
So if you go to school, get good grades, you're going to get accepted into a good college. And if you get accepted into a good college and you get a good degree, you're going to get yourself a good job. And if you have a good job, you end up with a family with 2 kids in a house with a picket fence, and you're going to have the best life ever. Yeah. So everything we're taught from starting young is all about if you chase this and you accomplish this, you're going to gain this, or you're going to get that.
Right.
So Chasing Certainty is all about deconstructing all of that, because it goes into every facet of life. In every facet of life, subconsciously, we are trying to figure out what can I do so that I can guarantee myself that, or I can guarantee myself this. And so that's what we do. We come across different topics. We've covered range from relationships to health to wealth to kids. I mean, it's quite broad in that sense. I'll let you go.
I love it.
Yeah. The title Chasing Certainty came from me just realizing over the last few years that I can chase certainty all I want, and it'll be just like the wind. I'll never catch it.
Yeah.
And so much of my indoctrination, my programming, my conditioning, my upbringing was, if you just do the right things or you believe the right things, you'll get certainty. And I was trying to find peace in the certainty, and it eluded me. And all it did was lead me to face death at 35. And what I found in my experience with a near-death experience is that I found peace in the mystery. I found ease in the unknown, because uncertainty is an uncomfortable position, but certainty is an absurd position.
Yeah.
And what we're really about is we bear our soul. And I'll just disclose right up front, if you are not a person who can live in the questions, you're going to struggle to listen to our podcast, because we do not hold back in the invitation to question everything.
I love
it. We
talk
talk about sex. We talk about the phenomenon of God. I know, Kyle, you're definitely going to want to tune in.
I'm in.
And we question common beliefs. We bring up things that most people say, those are off limits. You can't go there. And I say, well, we're going to go there.
Yeah.
Because one of our mantras as a family is face it so you'll make it. Because most of the mantra that we had heard most of our life was, fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
And we found that actually it was when we were willing to face it, when we were willing to have those tough conversations, when we were willing to go and have really difficult communication with a family member, or bring up something that literally made us, shake because we were so nervous, to be able to speak our truth, to be able to not stuff and suppress all those things down into our body and down into our organs, because we now know that if we don't release that energy, it will eventually manifest in another form of sickness. It will manifest in dis-ease. So we're not here to tell you what to think about sex or God or relationships or anything, but we are here to invite those who want to have a larger conversation that might at first make you very, very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But if we don't ever get uncomfortable, how will we ever expand and evolve and move into those greater aspects of human consciousness that are calling us forward? And our soul knows it, but our insecurities, our fears, our social status, the concern that somebody in our family or close to us may reject us if they knew we were asking these questions, so often those hold us back.
Yeah.
But only in being held back may we be 35 years old like I was, staring death in the face, about to have a beautiful woman and 3 kids left to their own, to have to navigate this world without a father and a husband. And all I can tell you is we've been brave enough and courageous enough to go into the places that not too many people before us have been willing to go. And the payoff is simply that I am alive, and that we are here, and that we get another chance to take in this beautiful, messy, challenging gift called being human. And today, my 14-year-old son had a little bit of a breakdown after his basketball workout. And he's not a real physical touch kind of guy, but that's not to take anything away from him. And I went in real quick to be adjusted at the chiropractor. And when I came out, he got out of the truck and he just embraced me with the biggest, most powerful, longest hug I can ever remember getting from him. I still don't even know what it's about. He didn't even say anything after that. But what I felt, I just thought in that moment, I would be willing to do it all over again times a gazillion to know that I wouldn't have missed what I got to feel today because I'm here. And so, yes, it's scary. And yes, it's disruptive. And yes, sometimes it causes problems within your closest relationships. But if you'll keep going, you didn't come this far to only come this far.
Well, I don't know if I'm appreciative of you for making me cry at the end. But man, I couldn't agree more. I love that you are both, men and women of conviction, and that you're living your truth. I hate that we live in a world now where like everyone wants to compartmentalize everyone because we feel safer around people when I can say what you are, right? And so for y'all's willingness to live in the gray of all of it, and your willingness to not be classified, I think is incredible. And I'm just appreciative for y'all coming on here. I hope for everybody that's watched and will watch as the recording is out there, that guys reach out to these people and do it because you want to be uncomfortable, right? Like it almost doesn't even make sense. Like, why would I go find a coach that's just like me? Like, what do they have to teach me?
Right.
Probably not a lot. So man, you guys are incredible. One of these days we're going to get to all hug in person. I don't know when it's going to happen, but it's going to happen. But guys, thank you. Thank you for being on here. We got to do it again in the near future.
Love to. Thanks for having us.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Y'all have a great rest of your day, and we will talk to you soon.